The Dallas Cowboys season is effectively over now that they've lost to the Vikings. We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the number one sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all year long. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we are talking about the Cowboys' 34-26 loss to the Minnesota Vikings in Week 15. Landon, this is a pretty disappointing one. The Cowboys came into this game, I think at one point they were 6.5-point favorites over on FanDuel. That number went down to 5 right before kickoff. We were feeling good about maybe their chances of making a run to the postseason. And getting blown out is strong because they lost by 8, but they did not play well in this game.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and it felt like very familiar kind of problems rearing their head again. You know, it was a complete inability to get after the passer, and it affects McCarthy. And McCarthy's a young quarterback who we talked about. If you're able to get after him and affect him, he'll make errant throws. And honestly, he made errant throws. There were certainly several of these different times where he had open receivers and he just missed them. So there could have been there's more meat left on that bone against the Cowboys defense that he missed. But there was certainly enough that he was able to make do with, and he was given plenty of opportunity to sit back in pockets and dice up a Cowboys secondary, which, you know, wasn't stellar, but I mean, certainly had the tougher of the two assignments, because the Minnesota Vikings offensive line was a little bit beat up, was still missing Christian Darrisaw, and the Cowboys offensive line barely got any pressure on them at all, on McCarthy at all.
No, and we should mention Brian O'Neill, their right tackle, who's a very good player. He left in this game with an injury. He didn't return. So both of the starting offensive tackles were out, and Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings figured out ways to give McCarthy time. We'll get into the defense more here in a little bit, but from a big picture standpoint, the odds of the Cowboys going on a run and winning their final 4 games and having the Eagles lose 2 of their last 3, I think the odds were fairly low. But one of the things that you and I were hoping for is just to see them play more meaningful games. Because, you know, you win this game, you play the Chargers next week, you're still going to be alive no matter what happens. And now, Landon, there's a pretty good chance by the time the Cowboys play their next game, they're officially eliminated from the playoffs. They basically are right now. And that's just not a fun spot to be in when you still have 3 games left and none of them are going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt like, you know, that maybe if you had won this game and gone into the Chargers, who are, you know, they're still kind of limping into the playoffs a little bit beat up, but they're still a playoff team, and you had lost to the Chargers and the Eagles had pulled out another victory, and you just, you know, it's like, oh, shucks, you just didn't have enough. I felt like that would have been, you know, like steps and a couple of steps ahead of where you are right now. And again, it's not completely over, but I mean, the odds are pretty bad at this point. And as the weeks go on, and if the more losses you compile and more wins the Eagles compile, it becomes more and more impossible to catch up to them at this point. So, you know, it's one of those things where you wish you'd been eliminated a little bit more, I guess maybe a little bit less pathetic style, right? Because that's what it felt like. You should have really won this game. You were favored to win this game. You're playing at home. You're playing
10 days rest.
I mean, yeah, you had plenty of time to get ready for this game, and it just felt like you gave McCarthy the one opportunity he kind of needed to play well in this game, to shred your defense, and he absolutely did.
And I was just thinking about a couple of weeks ago when the Cowboys were 6-5-1. Coming out of that Kansas City game on Thanksgiving, we were feeling really good about the direction of this team. We felt like even if they didn't make the playoffs, things were trending in the right direction. It seems like they were on the right path, even if it didn't happen this year. Coming out of this game, it just feels like, man, it's the same thing that we saw earlier in the year, except for the only difference is now they don't have 2 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. Not saying the Quinn Williams trade is bad by any stretch, but it's the defense continues to be a major issue. You can't get stops against mediocre offenses, and now they're out of postseason contention.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was the issues that they have stopping the pass were not going to be solved this offseason. Like, I mean, I think Quinnen Williams' addition helps there for sure, but I also think that mostly what it's done is made you a much better run defense, and that's a lot, right? But I think you still obviously need a 1 or 2 pieces on the edge to kind of be a better pass rushing team to threaten teams like this, because ultimately you still don't. I mean, it's both. You got to have coverage. You have to have pass rush. Right now, the Cowboys don't really have a complete set of either, right?
No.
And so if they just need more talent on the back end of their defense and on the front of their defense, if they want to compete in the playoffs, that was not going to necessarily get solved. But you had hoped that that was not necessarily going to get solved this season, but you had hoped that it would have gotten to a point that your offense could kind of make up for that situation, which, kind of really leads us to another part of the issue here, is that you had an offensive play caller and an offensive head coach that wasn't calling the game with the level of urgency that probably was necessary against, considering the defense that you had playing for you in the way that they were unable to stop this Minnesota offense.
Yeah, we're going to get to Brian Schottenheimer in a little bit, but just a couple things on the offense. They got into a really hairy spot in this game with Javonte Williams because he left early. Was it after the first drive or second drive with a shoulder injury? Malik Davis came in and performed as well as you can expect Malik Davis to play. Hunter Luepke suffered a concussion right before halftime on the kick. I think it was the Minnesota. Mm-hmm. You were really down to like 1.5 running backs in this game. The Cowboys ran the ball incredibly well, but they weren't able to stick with it consistently. And I think a lot of it had to do with they were just running out of running backs.
Well, I think, yes, absolutely that. And I also think that what was happening is that, between the 20s, they were able to run the ball because Minnesota was playing so much shell coverage to prevent Lamb and Pickens from getting down the field. And then once things got compressed a little bit, they weren't having the same rate of high success running the football because the safeties were closer to the line of scrimmage and tackles were being made closer. And then I think one of the other real big issues there was the pass protection problem, right? Like, I mean, you don't necessarily trust, I think, Malik Davis to go in there and pass protect on a regular basis. Certainly not to the way that you did to Javonte Williams, and certainly not to the way you had to Hunter Luepke. So there was that point when Hunter Luepke went out that I was actually extremely concerned, because considering who you were playing in the Vikings and who was going to be pass protecting next to Dak, which if both Williams and Luepke had been out at the same time, it would have been Davis for the majority of those snaps, which would cause even more problems than the Cowboys had protecting their quarterback.
Let's talk about Brian Schottenheimer, because I thought this was a really concerning game for his development and where he's at as a head coach. I want to dive into that more. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something that you wrap. It's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't just your average picture frame. It's incredibly awesome. We got one for my mom. She absolutely loves it. She can watch her grandbabies all day on the frame. And what's the best part of it was we were able to upload the pictures before we gave it to her as a gift. No headaches. It was so easy to figure out. Just instant smiles. It's the holiday gift that's actually going to get used, not forgotten about and thrown into some junk drawer. And for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That is AURA frames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to Locked On listeners, and the frames sell out very fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays, and make sure that you support our show by mentioning us at checkout. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. You're already a diehard Cowboy fan. The Everyday or All Access tier is built for you. You're going to get one-on-one text access with Landon and I, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access, and you can find the link in the show notes. All right, Landon, let's talk about Brian Schottenheimer. I've got a big spiel on him a little bit, but what did you think about his coaching performance here on Sunday night?
Well, I think, it's kind of like what we discussed earlier, right? It's my concern is still that, and I think that this is going to be something that he's going to need to work on in the offseason. He's going to have to do some self-evaluation, some self-scout, and talk to his coaching staff. And I think he's just going to need to see about, maybe changing the decision-making process on these kind of key fourth down decisions, right? It's a little bit of what you and I discussed earlier, maybe a couple of weeks ago about the Brandon Aubrey effect of it all, right? Like the fact that you have Brandon Aubrey on this team and that he can kick these field goals. I mean, at least, at certain points he could, with quite high regularity from very long distances, and it opens up opportunities for you. But the kind of counter of that, the maybe the indirect result, that the undesired result, is that maybe you become a little bit too conservative because you know that you have a kicker who can make these long distance kicks, right? And ultimately, it's not even just that. It's the fact that, not necessarily recognizing that your defense, and maybe over trusting that your defense is going to be able to make stops when clearly it's kind of shown over and over again that it doesn't really have the ability, or at least to the point where, you feel like the defense should have to earn back that right, and it hasn't. Like it's felt like you're consistently getting burned by,
Correct.
The thought of, well, we'll kick a field goal here or in hope that our defense kind of makes us right. And it really came back to bite you this week, where you missed, a field goals and then had, deal with the loss of field position and especially the long field goals. It puts you in precarious situation. It makes a Minnesota Vikings offense that hasn't necessarily had to do very much, against other teams. I mean, not have to go very far in order to score points. So, I think ultimately that, combined with the fact that you had such a great play caller like Kevin O'Connell that you were facing, it really kind of made up a lot of the difference in talent that you have between these two teams, particularly. And I think that the Cowboys' inability to kind of make up that ground by being a little bit more aggressive and putting their best foot forward and playing, believing in their offense instead of their defense. I think it came back to bite them again this week.
Yeah, and this is our biggest complaint about Schottenheimer is we're 14 games through the season right now, and it still doesn't feel like he knows what type of team he has. You've got to go into these games thinking that you need to score 30 plus points every single week to win, or I can't believe I'm using this example, do the Jason Garrett thing and really try to limit the number of possessions in the game with your offense to limit the exposure of your defense. And they're just not doing either, either of those right now. And that's why you have a record of 6-7-1. I thought the Cowboys lost the game in a 3-drive stretch, and I wanted to run through it a little bit, Landon. So give me just a little bit of leeway. So after the Vikings took a 17-14 lead, the Cowboys were operating a 2-minute drill. At one point after the Tyler Smith injury, he got poked in the eye. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys had a 1st and 10 at the Minnesota 46-yard line with 1:20 left on the clock and no timeouts. All right. At this point, a field goal is almost certain, right? So play for the touchdown, be aggressive. This is how the next couple of plays went. A 1st and 10 dive to Hunter Luepke that gets 3 yards. Okay. On 2nd and 7, they threw a pass over the middle, a check down to Hunter Luepke, who got 11 yards, which was really good. Again, a good play. Then they run a 10-yard out route to George Pickens. And while you got back-to-back, 11 and 10-yard plays, now the time is down to 35 seconds. You're really in a crunch mode for time. And then you run a screen to Hunter Luepke that gets 2 yards. And that was basically it. Like you're running a screen for Luepke, and now you're settling for a field goal. Okay. Coming out of halftime. So you have a 17-17 tie, right? The Cowboys get the ball down to Minnesota's 11-yard line. Okay. First and 10 from the 11. Wide receiver screen to CeeDee Lamb that Dak has to dirt. A 2nd and 10 run that gains no yards to Malik Davis. And then they throw a slant to Javonte Turpin for 1 yard. You kick a 26-yard field goal. I mean, Landon, just that drive alone, like it just felt like everything was too cute. I wish they wouldn't try to run some screens and these 2nd and 10 runs when they're in the low red zone.
Yeah, I mean that's really the green zone or whatever they want to call that, right? Like it feels like once they get into that area, it's the Will Ferrell, like I don't know what to do with my hands.
Exactly.
Like it's like they have all these weapons, all this this offensive line that they've invested, this run game that's looked efficient between the 20s, and you get in the 10-yard line. And it's like you don't know what to do. It's like you're trying to figure out a way to get everyone an opportunity to score a touchdown instead of just going in there and playing the smart play and doing what you can to create little space and scoring the touchdown when you need to.
So it doesn't end there. So the Cowboys actually get a really quick stop. So they're up 20-17, right? This is a chance to really kind of put the game away. You're moving the ball down the field. And this is where I had maybe the biggest problem. Javonte Turpin catches a nice little pass, and it's 2nd and 1 on Minnesota's 26-yard line. Take a shot, right? Take a shot down the sideline. Take a shot to try to get to the end zone. This is the best chance to do it, because if you get an incompletion, who cares? You still have 2 downs to get 1 yard. They run up the middle with Malik Davis. They get 2 yards. 1st and 10, they run another screen that fails, so it's 2nd and 10. Then they run a reverse with Javonte Turpin that gets 2 yards. They have a false start on 3rd and 8 that puts them at 13 yards. Then they get a then they get a 10-yard pass to Malik Davis. So it's 4th and 3 at Minnesota's 4th and 3 at Minnesota's 18-yard line. Okay, you're up by 3. Going up by 6 doesn't do a ton for you. Be aggressive. You're in the red zone. Go for the touchdown to really start putting this game out of reach. They take the delay of game. They kick a 41-yard field goal. Minnesota scores a touchdown like 6 plays later, and now you're behind. It's those stretches in the game where Brian Schottenheimer needs to be better. He's got to default to being aggressive rather than we'll take a 6-point lead and live with it.
It's playing not to lose, right?
Yeah. And you lost.
Playing to win, and you lost. You still end up losing, right? That's always the issue with playing not to lose. When you're on the 18, how many times they also could have just looked at it this way. Like, how many times would they pin Minnesota back in bad field position? Even if you had, gone for it and missed, it wouldn't have been nearly as bad than as trying to kick a 53-yard field goal and missing it, right? Because you're giving them 40 extra yards of free field to kind of to get back to the 10-yard line. I think it was the 18-yard line that they went for that 4th and 3. So I mean, I think it doesn't even it's not even consistent with itself. I think that's the issue. And again, I think it's a couple different things. I think it's a young coach maybe not understanding the depths of the problems of his defense and needing to make up for it. I think it's too much trust in a guy like Aubrey, and I think that it's someone who's afraid to kind of take that extra step to be aggressive full time in order to deliver that final blow to win the football game.
I would have thought after last week when Brian Schottenheimer kicked way too many field goals against the Lions and they lost by 14, I really would have thought that after the 10-day break that he would have kind of been really aggressive in this game, and he wasn't. And that's what's so concerning to me, is that it doesn't feel like the head coach is learning. And honestly, he's getting less and less aggressive as the year goes on. You look at some of the early numbers, like from the first 2 months of the season, he was way more aggressive in those games. And now I don't know what to feel about Brian Schottenheimer, because you've got a losing record after 14 games. You're becoming less and less aggressive, and he still doesn't know what his team is. I don't want to say that they should fire him, because I don't believe that or anything, but I feel more discouraged now than I have in a long time.
I don't know if I'm ready to quite go that route because I think because I think he's a young head coach and this is all part of like, him
Young
being
in terms of experience, but not necessarily young in terms of like age, right?
yeah, but I mean, I think young in terms of experience is what we're talking about here. This is a part of one of the things that these coaches have to go through in a learning experience, like learning how to feel their team out and understanding the totality of their team, and then counterbalancing that. This is something that all young head coaches go through. So I'm certainly not thrilled with what is going on. Like that's the truth. This is a case where I feel like he's playing over his head to a large degree. But I'm not soured on him long term because I think this is part of what he's going to have to go through to be a good coach. The question will be if he goes to the offseason and he examines the situation and he doesn't like change what's going on, then I will definitely be concerned because I just don't know that you're going to change the way you decide these sort of things in the middle of the season so vastly that we would notice.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense, which is I don't even have a word to describe it right now. Bad. Actually, way worse than that. We'll talk about if there's any chance that Matt Eberflus returns in 2026 next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be in the action all season long, FanDuel is the spot for you because Sundays move fast in one big play and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And live betting is the best when the game starts to flip. And you can usually feel it when a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly and player props that update as guys heat up. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all year long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Okay, let's talk about the Cowboys defense in this one. They got a turnover on the first drive of the game. It felt like maybe this is the night that they can make some plays. Nope, they give up 34 points. Minnesota averages 6.3 yards per play, and that's with J.J. McCarthy still being J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. Like and again, like Minnesota's offensive line was beat up a little bit, and the Cowboys still weren't able to kind of generate consistent pressure. It wasn't like that they didn't get any pressure at any point because it does feel like there were times they were able to flush him out. And to his credit, he was able to kind of, create a little bit on the outside of the pocket and make some plays down the field. But I think the large point was that he felt comfortable enough for a large portion of the game, certainly enough to attack the Cowboys down the field and shake receivers loose on the back end. And not even Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison, like, Neighbor, I think was mostly the guy that was, getting Naylor, was mostly the guy that was getting the targeting downfield. But the Cowboys, it felt like if I had to point at one thing that specifically was the problem, it was the lack of outside on the edge pass rush that could really consistently make McCarthy get off his spot. It just felt like he was sitting back there and tossing the ball down the field after waiting, tick, 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 throw the football.
I mean, that's the thing is you could point to any spot of this defense and you'd be right. I mean, the linebackers again were awful. If you get a chance, watch DeMarvion Overshown on the J.J. McCarthy rushing touchdown. I mean, he is just completely lost. He has no idea. On the Aaron Jones rushing touchdown, it might have been Jordan Mason. It was Aaron Jones. Kenneth Murray just it was C.J. Ham. The C.J. Ham rushing touchdown. Kenneth Murray had no idea who got the ball. He jumped into the wrong gap, and the fullback went right into his. Logan Wilson can't run from sideline to sideline. Like, they're just – it's really hard to play football when your linebackers are this incompetent.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all the same. It's all the same issues, right? It's all the same problems. I think the linebacker play may have been a tick better because they had a little bit less Murray, but not that much better because you're just trading one problem for another. It's not like you have the talent. You don't have the talent you need at the position at this point. It's a not even it's less than average. It's below less than average linebacker crew right now. And then again, like, you've got, nothing to hang your hat on as a pass defense. You don't have a pass rush that you can kind of lean on to hope the ball comes out early so you can not expose your corners. And you don't have the corners to, like, sustain man coverage to wait for your pass rush to get there. So you're getting absolutely killed in the pass game. And I think in the run game, you're seeing, them making stops. They had tackles for losses. They're able to make some plays some of the times, but then also obviously giving up big chunks, which, to Minnesota's credit, they've actually been pretty good about doing specifically that, creating big chunk plays in the run game. But yeah, I mean, ultimately it's the same stuff that we've seen week in, week out with this defense. It's really worn thin at this point. And it'll be interesting to see what form the change is going to come, but change definitely needs to come.
I mean, nothing would surprise me, but at this point, how do you bring Matt Eberflus back? I would have thought that Matt Eberflus coaching in the NFC North, he would have given you an advantage in those 4 games, right? The Cowboys gave up 37 points per game against NFC North teams this year. They've given up 30 or more points. I'm counting it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times this year. 8 times you've given up 30 or more points. It's just unacceptable. And I know the talent is not great, but I see other coaches out there across the NFL that have, they don't have talent either. And they're not giving up 34 points to JJ McCarthy and quarterbacks like this. So you have to move on. I don't care about, hey, this would be the 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years. He's just not giving you any advantage on game day. And actually, I think he's hurting you.
Well, I mean, look, we've seen team defenses without talent before, but at least they play with technique and they play hard. And I don't know that that's always the case with this crew at times.
No, I don't get it. All right. We're going to have a lot to discuss this week with the Cowboys. Maybe we'll start some draft talk soon, Landon. I don't know.
It's creeping at this point for sure.
It's whatever. All right. That is it for today's show. Sorry for being so depressed. I just hate meaningless football. That's what it is. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get your podcasts so you get all of the latest episodes. And did Locked On Cowboys make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it to us on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite shows ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. And make sure that you check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.